As much as I tried to keep putting the day off and delaying the inevitable, the arrow of time relentlessly and mercilessly moved forward to the arrival of my 40th birthday. Yep, 40 years old. I don't look it, do I? Now, we're not ones for throwing parties or going doing stuff like that. So we decided to have a road trip around Scotland. We started off here in Inverness, had ourselves a breakfast, and it was time to hit the road. I hired a car. It was a brand new 26 plate Mazda 3. I was very impressed with the technology in it. Or maybe I'm just used to older cars. As we set off down towards Loch Ness, the views and the scenery didn't take very long to start arriving and just being epic. Coming from down south in Gloucestershire, you got the Cotswold Hills, but this was just absolutely mind-blowing. Something else. Completely different world. Here at Urquhart Castle, I think that's how you pronounce it. Somebody might correct me. We stopped off here on the way down Loch Ness. It's situated about halfway, I think, along the road by NatWest. NatWest? Loch Ness. One of the trebuchets that they built as a replica. Again, apologies for the wind noise. When the sun was out, it was nice. It was blowing, and it was quite cold. There was some wintry showers around. I think we were pretty lucky with the weather. Time for an explore around Urquhart Castle. it's really hard to get your head around the amount of history in these places, you know, and the people that would have lived and worked here under the Lord of the Manor hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Urquhart Castle is a strategic place in the middle of the loch, and also for the Great Glen, and this would have commanded a large area around. Looking out into the loch at this point is actually the deepest point in Loch Ness, which is around 400 meters deep, which is about twice the depth of the North Sea at its deepest point. No swimming. Can't say I was really tempted, to be honest. It's about £11 each to get in and have a look around, which wasn't too bad. I think it's a bit cheaper if you have is it a Historic Scotland membership? One of the tour boats arriving. We were probably lucky to get around and leave before that arrived, because quite a few people came off that. We headed off from Urquhart Castle. We were heading towards Fort William, but we did a little detour up here, up to Glen Affric. Being the time of year, being in March, there wasn't that many people around. I imagine it gets quite busy in the summer, but it was so quiet. There was hardly a soul around, and I think we were really lucky with the weather. Well, we've come up to Glenfinnan, to the viaduct, to the Harry Potter viaduct. There is a train on the way, and it's due to be here in about 15 minutes. And we are braving the rain in hope of seeing a train. Yeah, it's not the steam train, but it's a train, because I just want to get a picture of a train on the viaduct, which I think will be pretty cool. When I said we were lucky with the weather, I mean, it wasn't like that all the time. It did have its moments. But we did get to see the train. It wasn't quite the Jacobite steam locomotive, but we still saw a train on the Glenfinnan viaduct, made famous by the Harry Potter film. I don't know which one. I have seen it, but I'm not a buff on Harry Potter by any means. Feel free to tell me in the comments. And again, it was quite cool to see a train on the tracks in the rain. We braved the rain and we saw the train. Now, let's go find warm food. I think I'm a bit too English for this Scottish weather. Well, that was good. Got to see the train. Did have a plan of going up Ben Nevis, which is the highest peak, the highest mountain in Britain, but we got there and we looked up and it just was in cloud, so it wasn't going to be an option to walk up there, and the gondola was really expensive just to go up and be in cloud. So we went to the Glenfinnan viaduct, came back to Fort William, had a curry and a Guinness Zero, and a pretty chilled evening. The morning of day 3, and we headed off really early to get the sunrise on the way to the Isle of Skye. We decided to head to the north of Skye, to this area known as the Quithrain. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it was absolutely incredible. We got to the top and the weather closed in on us, and walking down this bit, those little hailstones hitting me in the side of the face was a little bit painful, but it definitely added something to our walk. Being up there was just absolutely incredible. It was like a different planet. I'd highly recommend going up there for a walk. You have to dress for all weathers, because we got to the top and we were boiling, and then we were coming back down and then it was freezing cold. But out of all the weather, I didn't have hailstones on my bingo card today, and that hailstones in the cold biting wind hitting my face was a bit of a stinger. It's kind of nice to be back down in the valley now, isn't it?
Nice and warm.
A bit more sheltered down here. Woo! Appropriate layers and footwear are a must when you're walking in places like this. Every turn you make, everywhere you look, is just absolutely epic. So rewarding. Even with the hailstones coming down, whacking you in the face. It's just absolutely beautiful. And some of the most picturesque scenery I've ever been walking through. what a way to spend my 40th birthday. I'm so glad we did it, and I will never forget this scenery for the rest of my life. We will go again. There's obviously so much more to see. Just like that, the sun is back out. And look at that. Breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. As we came back down, we did start to see some people coming up. And I think they were coming up the way we were going down, because I think it looked a bit easier going up that way. But the way that we walked up was quite steep, and I would have preferred a bit less of an incline to walk down rather than walking down steep stuff. I think this was probably one of the hairiest bits on the loop. You walk from the car park and you do like a loop round. You could do more and spend more hours doing a bigger loop. This walk, it took us about 3 hours with a break for a snack. For a 40th birthday walk, that's going to take some beating, that walk. That was words can't even describe how beautiful that is. Absolutely epic. Alright, now time to get back down to Inverness and look forward to dinner this evening. Fish and chips, I think. And with that, it was time to head back to Inverness from Skye. It was about a 3-hour drive through some of the most impressive scenery you can imagine.
Recording.
And for the final day of our little weekend break, before going to the airport and heading back to the Shire, we had a stop off at Fort George, which is only 10 minutes from Inverness Airport. Quite an interesting walk around the barracks, which is still actually a functional military barracks. There were some soldiers and stuff on duty. Again, the history here, it was really interesting to see.
Moved or reformed. Of course, this is the army, so there's a good deal of routine, reports and so forth. We have thousands of men coming through the fort, on their way out, on their way back, on their way out again. It's a bit like King's Cross Station in uniform. I'm afraid the new recruits are often slightly shocked by the place. No proper facilities, that sort of thing. But it's like heaven for the ones who slept in beach. I have one private coming here for reassignment. He's got to run back from France. Well, he's right.
Any day. Hey,
Well, well, well. There's a well. Well, that's enough of my jokes. There is a sign that says Dolphins Viewpoint. So we went to have a look. Did we see any dolphins? didn't see any dolphins. I saw some seagulls. Unfortunately, no dolphins. The Grand Magazine. I think this was the most interesting part. The smell as you walked in there was that really old, musty smell, you know. This was where they would have stored all of the barrels, thousands of barrels of gunpowder to be used for arming the cannons and using them to fend off attackers. You know, I expect in the summer months this is quite a touristy destination. It probably does get busy, but there was hardly anybody there. And all the rifles, which they probably still use for parade shows and things like that. And the model of the site. The Grand Magazine is that bit on the bottom in the middle. The officers' quarters. And some of the regular soldiers' quarters, as they would have been. Imagine sleeping in there with those models in there. That'd be a bit creepy, wouldn't it?
Right.
We stopped off at the cafe, had ourselves a coffee and soup of the day, which was leek and potato, homemade. It was very nice. And I quite liked that we were the only ones there. The sun shining through the windows, chilled out in the cafe on our own. It was a nice chilled end to our epic couple of days. You have to finish on a bit of sweet, a bit of chocolate brownie. Be rude not to, wouldn't it? That's a good brownie. And that was the end of our Scottish adventure. I hope you enjoyed coming along. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. That would help massively. And consider subscribing. Scotland, you were absolutely beautiful, amazing. Words can't even describe some of those roads and the scenery that I have seen and witnessed. We will be back. Again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.